The Philadelphia Eagles face a tough slate of AFC quarterbacks in 2023. Is this the most difficult out-of-conference schedule that Jalen Hurts has faced in his 3 years as the starter for the Eagles? All that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in, everyone, to another edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On Eagles appreciates all of our everydayers for making LOE their first listen each and every day, whether this is your first or 101st episode. We thank you for tuning in for free wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube in video form as well. And now you could find us on the SiriusXM app as well, where you can also catch the Philadelphia Phillies, who begin a West Coast road trip on Thursday here in my home of Denver, Colorado. And if you want to catch all of Phillies games, make sure you check out every pitch on the hometown broadcast with the SiriusXM app on the SXM app. Search Phillies. I'm Gino Camilleri, as always, your host now for 6 seasons running, bringing you Eagles news, insights, and opinions Monday through Friday. All through the year, 12 months, we're talking Eagles. And this episode here of LOE is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on a journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today and get 10% off your first month. On today's episode of Locked On Eagles, with the toughest teams when it comes to strength of schedule being ahead for the Philadelphia Eagles, what are the punching bag games where the Eagles should come out with a victory? Also, a Christmas miracle, the Eagles take on a division rival in the New York Giants on Monday Night Football, announced by Adam Schefter on Christmas Day. But first, is this the most difficult group of AFC quarterbacks that Jalen Hurts has faced in his tenure as a starter of the Philadelphia Eagles? Yesterday on the show, Lou and I were talking about what are those matchups we're looking forward to, the ones that you're circling. If you look back to last year, it was that Green Bay game towards the end of the year where you're saying, okay, if you could go into Green Bay and play against Aaron Rodgers in a shootout, which exactly what it came to be, and you won that game, that might be a good measuring stick going forward. Because when you look at the test that Jalen Hurts faced in the AFC last year, it wasn't one that he faced in 2021, and it certainly wasn't the caliber of what he is going to face in 2023. So when you're going 3 consecutive games in the playoffs, playing NFC teams after playing a boatload of division rivalry games towards the end of the year, you're not really facing those AFC teams besides the middle part of the season. But it's a good test to find out where you are going to stand when you're playing in that game in February, like you did last year, against one of the top teams in the league with the top quarterback and a top coach. Could this stretch of games get the Eagles more prepared than ever to take on one of these teams in the AFC when it comes to the Super Bowl? And if you just look back at the QBs that the Eagles have faced opposite of Jalen Hurts over the last 2 years when Jalen was a starter, it's not a great list. You start with Teddy Bridgewater when he was a Denver Bronco, Zach Wilson prior to Aaron Rodgers coming in here back in 2021. Then you played that abysmal game against Las Vegas and lost to Derek Carr. You lost by a couple points to Justin Herbert in a shootout. And Patrick Mahomes once again threw all over the football field against you. And you're saying, okay, that's a top-heavy list. You played Justin Herbert, you played Patrick Mahomes, who both went on to take their teams to the playoffs, and Derek Carr and the Raiders just missed out that season. And then you go to last year, they played Davis Mills, Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill, and Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Trevor Lawrence, and once again, Patrick Mahomes. So in the last 2 seasons, you've lost 4 games to AFC opponents, 2 of which have been to Patrick Mahomes, the Super Bowl winning team. You've only played a playoff quarterback twice in each of those respective seasons. Last year, it was Patrick Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence. The year before that, it was Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes yet again. But if you look at the overall depth of that quarterback room when it comes to the division that you're playing, last year, the people who said the Eagles didn't play anybody, if you point to this schedule that they played against those AFC opponents where you played Pittsburgh, who had a rookie Kenny Pickett, you played Tennessee, who Ryan Tannehill has seen better days in that building. Malik Willis has already been given up on with Will Levis coming there now. And Matt Ryan is no longer in Indy. And Davis Mills, we know his future now that CJ Stroud is there. The only real test that you had against AFC teams was playing Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence. It was a great indicator. That was a great matchup between the Eagles and Doug Peterson. I thought Trevor played well. I thought Jalen Hurts played exceptional as well in that game. But now let's look at 2023. You talk about weight classes. Let's say 2021 is your welterweight class, and then 2022 is lightweight. 2023 is a super heavyweight class. Because not only are you going to, for a third consecutive season, having to play Patrick Mahomes, you got to do it in Arrowhead once again. You now have to play Josh Allen, who Jalen Hurts has never played. The last time they played them was in Buffalo when Carson Wentz got that win. Tua Tagovailoa, who took Jalen Hurts' job at Alabama, and with the offense that they have. Mac Jones in New England, they were a contender down the stretch to potentially have a playoff team. And with Bill Belichick, you never know. And then, that guy that replaced Zach Wilson, who you played 2 years ago, is now Aaron Rodgers, who is a multi-time MVP and has a roster that is built to win right now. That's a great test. If you want to dip your toes in the water, go right ahead. But you got to jump into this thing head first because you're playing some cream of the crop guys. You're playing 3 guys that brought their team to the Super Bowl last year. Aaron Rodgers, who was in the perennial MVP discussion for many years and now has one of the better defensive rosters in the AFC with a boatload of weapons on offense, built from a very similar mindset in Joe Douglas, who comes from the Howie Roseman tree. And then the quote-unquote cupcake of the group is Bill Belichick in New England, which on any given Sunday can out-scheme even the best of coaches. If you want to talk about playing with the big boys, this is playing with the big boys and then some. The matchup alone with Patrick Mahomes, that should get your juices flowing right away. Because you're going to say, are we on par with that team that, 1, we had last year? 2, did we close the gap of what was there with those 3 points that you lost by in the Super Bowl? And once again, can Jalen Hurts take that step? We talked about it on yesterday's show. That mental step to beat that guy that it just seems that you can't beat. Like the Seahawks back in the 2010s to 2020s, when you played Russell Wilson, the Eagles could never do it. Seems that way with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. It just seems like they can't overcome that victory. And now you're going to play Josh Allen, who has basically everything to play for with this Bills team moving forward. And they want to win now because Aaron Rodgers is there and you're going to have to compete against him because Tua in that offense is there and you're going to have to compete against them as well. They are looking at these out-of-conference games as a one-up way to find a leg on the competition because let's say they go 3-3 against the AFC East, well, you're going to have to find a margin win somewhere else, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Every team is going to give you their best shot week in and week out. And you're playing a first-place schedule where you have to play the Chiefs, and you get the AFC East, who might be the best division in all of football as it currently stands. We're going to find out quickly where Jalen Hurts stands in terms of all of the quarterbacks in the league, especially with the ones in the AFC, because you know you're going to get Dak. You know you're going to get Daniel Jones. You know you're going to get Sam Howell. You're going to play those guys 6 times. You can take 1-1, but you only play these guys once every 4 years besides the Chiefs, who you play every single year, right? So this is a good litmus test to see where you stand in the whole structure of the NFL as a whole, because maybe it sets you up to be in a good position that when you take on one of these teams, fingers crossed, in Vegas next year, you will already have a leg up on the competition. And we talked about on yesterday's show what teams might have the leg up on the Philadelphia Eagles being the top 5 matchups we're looking forward to. Coming back after the break, I'm going to discuss what are those games, those quote-unquote Citadel or those Western Kentucky type of games for the Philadelphia Eagles moving into 2023, where they can try and one-up the Dallas Cowboys and the rest of those NFC teams that might be fighting for seeding in the end of the year. But before we do that, we have a message from our friends over at BetterHelp. This episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, we have the link right at the bottom, betterhelp.com/lockedon. And everybody, listen up. Lou and I, we don't take this lightly. BetterHelp has truly helped us for the better. BetterHelp is one of those ways that you can connect with a professional therapist and just talk. It's a way to get out of the fog, a way to see a light forward. When we talk about being all in, mentally you have to be all in. And what better place than to start today than BetterHelp? We've been using BetterHelp for a couple years now. You match with a licensed therapist. If that's not the one for you, you can find another one, because everybody deserves a chance to go and talk to somebody and find somebody that truly cares for you. And they do over at BetterHelp. And we do here at the Locked On Eagles podcast. That's why we are always talking about BetterHelp. Go to BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to match with a licensed therapist, and make sure you tell them that Locked On sent you. All right, everyone. Welcome on back to this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Gino Camilleri. As always, getting you through the week once again, Monday through Friday, 5 days each and every week. Even in May, it's May 10th, and we still have things to talk about when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. And make sure you subscribe wherever you get your shows. Watch us on YouTube as well. Make sure you interact with us on Twitter. You could catch me at GC24_football. Catch Lou at DiBiase LOE, and follow the main page at Locked On Birds. But yesterday on the show, we talked about what are those 5 games, those games that we circled for the Eagles, saying, man, that's going to be one of those tests. A couple of them were against the quarterbacks that we talked about, playing Patrick Mahomes on the road, playing Josh Allen, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, not just the AFC, going against Tua, who has an offense that's built very similarly to the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe that first road game against Dallas, maybe the game on the road against Seattle with a team that is built to win right now, with the NFC West being the way it is. We'll look at the other structure of this and say, what are those games that, hey, where's the Zach Wilson on this schedule? Where's the Teddy Bridgewater on this schedule? What games should the Philadelphia Eagles, 1, be heavy favorites over at FanDuel, and 2, be a game that you don't play down to your level of competition, but rather you take care of business? And I preface this by saying, what is that Citadel game, that Western Kentucky game? And I made the joke to Lou yesterday that the Eagles, they got to have that SEC type of schedule, right? Where in the first couple weeks you play that opponent where you can best them in a game that really doesn't put too much stress on you. And that, I felt, was the Detroit Lions game last year. And although it was a little bit closer than you would have expected, it's one of those games where you're not coming out of the gates and playing a team that you played in the Super Bowl the year before, going against the Atlanta Falcons, who played you tight in that Super Bowl playoff, and then go play them on prime time. I would say right away, if you're going to start this season off early and have one of those games, what better way than to play the Arizona Cardinals? Simply, 1, Arizona is the closest thing to a team that should be relegated to one of the other leagues. And another team in their division, the Los Angeles Rams, they're expected to have, I believe, 30-plus rookies on their roster when it comes to the 90-man. And we'll see how many make the 53. But they brought in a boatload of guys for rookie minicamp. They brought in a boatload of back-end draft picks. We know that they are cap-strapped over the last couple of years. And if you just look at those 2 rosters on paper, you have to take care of business in the NFC West, because it might not get any easier than that. The NFC East is always cutthroat. The AFC East, who you're playing, is going to be a bloodbath. And then outside of that, you're playing San Francisco in that division, who you should best, who you beat last year. Brock Purdy is coming back. It's not going to be an easy test, but that division is the one that you were scheduled to play this year. So you got to take care of the 2 teams that, for once, aren't as scary as they used to be. Even last year, Arizona was a little bit tougher. Even the year before that, the Rams were a Super Bowl winner. But right now, as it stands, the Rams and Cardinals might be in consideration to draft Caleb Williams first overall next year. That is a legitimate case to happen. But at the same time, we're talking about these games where you have to play Kyler Murray and you have to play Matt Stafford still. It's not going to be easy. That's why the Eagles have the toughest strength of schedule. What's another one? I'd got to say the Minnesota Vikings. The Eagles have had a lot of success against Kirk Cousins, but at the same time, he's had their number. And Minnesota is a team that's on the downfall once again. They're not going to have Dalvin Cook more than likely. They're still trying to find that second guy at the wide receiver position, now with Adam Thielen being gone. Their offensive line isn't one of the best in the league. Their defensive line, even though Mike Clay said they have the best edge rushing group in the National Football League, with Marcus Davenport being their number 3, I simply don't believe it. But the NFC, we know that there's the Eagles and then everybody else. But there's that middle ground of teams that can compete. The Detroit Lions, the Seattle Seahawks, Dallas, even the New York Giants, who were a playoff team last year. But the bottom, man, the bottom is rough. There aren't those teams in the AFC outside of potentially Tennessee and maybe Indianapolis that are that bad. I think Arizona, the Rams, and potentially Minnesota can be that bad. Like just otherworldly bad. Being at best maybe a 5-6 win team. In the North, though, Minnesota might be able to win it, but when they play the Philadelphia Eagles, which is going to take place in Lincoln Financial Field, best of luck to Kirk Cousins and co. Another one that's going to be on the road, it's going to be quote-unquote revenge. You're not playing the same quarterback, but you're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have Baker Mayfield, a roster that is in flux after the retirement, again, of Tom Brady. What are they truly going to be in the NFC South? I don't know who wins the NFC South. I truly have no expectations of how that division is going to go, but that might be the worst division in the whole sport. And you have the chance to go and play Tampa, not with Tom Brady. You have Jalen Hurts in this offense that should be able to go light years faster than what Tampa presents to you on defense. They aren't what they were 2 years ago. This has to be one of those games that you're saying, okay, on the road, we play New York, Washington, Dallas, of course. Then we have to go to Mile High. That's going to be tough. We have to go to New England. That's going to be a tough environment. You know that those two teams don't love each other. Seattle's always tough to play in. Even the New York Jets in the Meadowland. They'll be a little friendlier. But right now, with the Rams on the road, with Tampa on the road, those might be the two easiest games that you might play all year on the road. Besides that, you're going to be in hostile environments. If MetLife is the easiest place that you're going to have to play with that many people, which might be an Eagles home game by then, you have to look at Tampa, which is an easy travel location. You have to look at LA, which is an easy travel location, and say, that might be another home game for the Philadelphia Eagles as well, and you got to take care of business in those two games. The last one I would have to say is Washington at home. The Eagles always have their number at home. They always take care of Washington when they come to Lincoln Financial Field. Look at what they did to Carson Wentz last year. Sam Howell, best of luck, my friend. I don't know how that's going to go for Washington. They're all in on him, apparently. I don't see it. But if you're going to say the 5 easiest wins on your calendar are against potentially Sam Howell, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Matt Stafford on a bad Rams team, and Kyler Murray on a bad Arizona team, even some of those quarterbacks are better than the guys you beat last year. So I don't like to look at these games and say they're easy or should be easy, but they're the games that you should get another victory and should say, if we play right and play our Eagles football, we're going to win this game. But could Kyler Murray have one of those games where you're saying, yeah, that's why he was the first overall pick? Could Matt Stafford suddenly, as a fully healthy quarterback, return to form? Potentially could. That's why the NFL is so difficult. And that's why when you win and you are the defending NFC representatives in the Super Bowl, your schedule is going to be harder moving forward. And that's exactly the task that the Eagles are going to face in 2023. We have to finish the show with a great piece of news that we got today. Many people's favorite holiday was presented with a gift that the Philadelphia Eagles will be playing on one of the big holidays. We'll talk about that and who they are playing on the other side of this break. All right, everyone. Welcome on in to Locked On Eagles, finishing up this Wednesday edition of the show. As always, I am Gino Camilleri. Thank you to our everydayers for tuning in and making this your first listen each and every day. We know tomorrow is the NFL schedule release. Lou and I will be coming to you right after that schedule is released, giving you all our talking points, what we think is going to be the toughest stretch, what we think will be the easiest stretch, the circle games that we always do every single year, and of course, the one game that is already for sure announced by Adam Schefter. No, it's not a Black Friday game. No, it's not a game in London or Germany. The Philadelphia Eagles, yes, our beloved Philadelphia Eagles. Talk about an all-time color matchup if these two teams wear their favorite jerseys, being Kelly green and that nice shade of Christmas red. The Eagles will be taking on the New York Giants on Christmas Day in Lincoln Financial Field. What a better treat. How fun is that? We talked about this on yesterday's show. Lou said he's not as big on these holiday games as I am. I love holiday games. What is better than a Monday Night Football after you spent all your time with your loved ones over the weekend? Christmas is coming to an end and you just want to relax with a full belly, and you sit down, turn on the television, and there's the nice infographic on ESPN that has that nice little Christmas flair, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles taking on division rival New York Giants. Last year, we were treated to a Christmas Eve game. We didn't get to see Jalen Hurts. We got to see Gardner Minshew take on the Dallas Cowboys. The last time we saw the Eagles play on Monday Night Football on Christmas was when they played, at the time, the Oakland Raiders, where Nick Foles went and beat a Derek Carr-led team to secure the number one seed in the NFC for the Eagles. Could that be another treat that we get this year? Could that truly be a repeat of what was 2017, where the Eagles are playing at home on Christmas and get the number one seed right before the new year? That would be beautiful, in my opinion. I love the game that they're going to play. It's going to be against the Giants. I don't like playing Dallas because everybody is going to be watching that game. We know everyone will watch this one. But Dallas, there's always more viewers on it. Last year, it's tough to embrace the holiday when you lose to your division rival. But how great would it be to end your Christmas weekend and take in the holiday spirit, then watch the Eagles, let's say Kelly green uniforms with a little bit of snow coming down on Monday Night Football, just setting the stage for you of what it will be. If the NFL wanted to sell tickets and they want to get viewers on this game, I think they did a masterful job. There's talks right now that the Eagles will be playing the Niners in week 13. We don't know officially, but officially the Eagles will be playing on Christmas Day. And what this should set up is hopefully a repeat of what happened in 2017, where the Philadelphia Eagles can clinch home field advantage in the NFC. This time by playing a more memorable game against a more memorable opponent. I don't know why they scheduled an out-of-conference Raiders game to be on Christmas with the Philadelphia Eagles. That makes no sense. No sense, in my opinion, if you're making these schedules. But we're going to see that this year, and it's going to be awesome. I don't want to rush things and say that's what the Eagles have to do is clinch by then, but it should be a hypothetical that comes across in our mind, especially because you're saying Jalen Hurts should be better than Daniel Jones. By that time in the season, the good should start to separate from the great, and the average teams will start to go to that 6-8 territory and so on and so forth. But the good teams will start to go towards that 12-2, 11-3. And that's where the Eagles want to be. And I'm so happy to see how the schedule comes out tomorrow, because we already know that we get one of the biggest games of the year. You don't have to go head-to-head with college football on Black Friday like a bunch of those teams are doing. You don't have to travel miles to go play in Germany and London. You're graced with playing all those games on U.S. soil, and you get a holiday game where if you want to win one of those and have fun, seeing those guys at the end of the game, if they get a victory, sliding on the snow in Lincoln Financial Field, I don't think there would be a much better way to end the holiday. And I don't think there's an easier way to end this episode of Locked On Eagles than how we just did. So thank you to all our everydayers for tuning in Monday through Friday, each and every week, all the way through the dead zone. Next episode, we'll be talking about the schedule release. We'll be taking in all of the tough stretches. We'll probably go through, do 4 or 5 episodes, break down each game, exactly what's going to happen in our opinion, where the Eagles are going to face the biggest test when it comes to travel, when it comes to multiple road games, when it comes to potentially facing teams when you're not rested and they are. That's what we get to talk about each and every day over here at LOE. So thank you for tuning in wherever you get your shows. If you listen to an audio form, wherever you get your podcasts, watch us on YouTube as well. Make sure you're interacting with us on Twitter. I'm Gino Camilleri, as always, at GC24_football. Catch my co-host at DiBiase LOE. Follow our main page at Locked On Birds. Make sure you tune in and always make us your first listen. And for your second listen, make sure you're checking out all of the shows over at the Locked On Podcast Network. Follow Locked On Phillies right now and make sure you check out the games this weekend against the Colorado Rockies over at Sirius XM, where you can also catch our show as well. Just search Phillies or search Locked On Eagles. But that'll do it for me. Gino Camilleri, have a great Wednesday. Appreciate you all for tuning in. As always, signing off, Fly Eagles Fly.